Hey investor friends, I'm Michelle Markey, and how you grew up informed your behaviors and attitudes about money, and depending on how your parents or people close to you handled their money, you could have chosen to either adopt their money habits or take a different path. And with a lot of baby boomers these days, they were trying to achieve the American dream that led them to take on way more debt than maybe they should have, so much so that they're struggling to enjoy life in retirement when they should have saved up enough for their retirement age, and now sometimes they have to go back to work just to afford living in their 60s and 70s and so on. But you don't have to have that fate, and I'm going to talk about the 5 money habits that are keeping you poor. So let's stop self-sabotaging, because if we can gain gradual awareness and then begin to change some of our behaviors and activities with money, we can be not only wealthier but a lot happier by not having debt and other financial concerns weighing us down. And if you enjoy learning about how to save money and invest your money, I'd love if you could please like and subscribe to my video and YouTube channel, because it greatly helps out with the YouTube algorithm and because I'm here to help you and myself achieve our financial dreams. Thanks. Habit number 1 is lifestyle creep and not spending within your means. A lot of people live according to an outer scorecard where they think they need to spend excessively in order to impress other people. And the truth is, it doesn't matter what the outside world thinks of you. You should live by what's called an inner scorecard and live according to your values. And you can still post fancy pictures to social media where you went to a luxurious beach vacation in an exotic location, but you don't have to burn a hole in your wallet doing so. If you're mindful about the cost, you can still enjoy a fun life that's worth sharing with other people, not because you're trying to show off, but because you were in a beautiful place and you had a great time, and this you can all do without coming home to an empty bank account. Another way that lifestyle creep keeps you poor is when you find yourself giving in to the latest and greatest products and services that you may or may not really need. And these especially include subscription services and expensive delivery services. And you have to ask yourself if you really need to consume watching all of the TV shows and movies on streaming apps like Netflix, Hulu, Apple TV Plus, Amazon Prime, and Disney Plus. And you have to ask yourself if you're really that pressed for time that you need all your groceries and meals delivered right to your door with services from Grubhub, DoorDash, Uber Eats, or also meal kit services like HelloFresh, Blue Apron, or Home Chef. And maybe you could have been making all this food from your local farmers markets and make just as healthy food, but at a fraction of the cost when you factor in how much you're paying in the delivery app. And then it makes us think about also the prices we're paying for the sake of convenience at the significant expense of our money, and what our money could have been doing instead of going to a lot of these plentiful delivery services that are just eager to make our lives oh so convenient under the premise of saving us time. But I'd like to question if we're really all that busy that we can't just make some of our own food at home sometimes, not with these delivery services, but by going to a physical grocery store or farmer's market ourselves. Also, a lot of people tend to think that they need to come up with a budget in order to afford their lifestyles, but maybe we should question what unnecessary expenses we're taking on so that instead we can afford our investments in order to afford a better lifestyle in the future. Habit number 2 is living with debt, and in my humble opinion, living with debt is like being in a bad relationship. In the US, we think it's normal to have debt to the tune of the average American having $53,000 of debt. And the American dream has a lot of people believing that they need to take on massive student loans in order to go to college, or that we need to have a mortgage in order to afford a house. But there are so many alternative paths we can take. And when we realize that not all things are worth going into debt for, we will make different choices. The first step is to recognize if you're in a bad relationship with debt, and then start making gradual steps toward breaking up with it. And personal finance guru Dave Ramsey suggests a snowball approach where you take your smallest debt and you pay that off first, regardless of how many other debts you have and their interest rates. And by focusing on paying off your smallest debt first, you get small mental wins that gets you motivated to paying off more of your debt. And my preferred approach is to actually tackle all of my debt and pay the highest interest rate loans first, and also to pay as much as I can afford on all of my loans with at least the minimum, if not more. And then I was able to pay off my student loans and my car loan a while ago within only 2 to 3 years by taking this approach, as I gradually made more money in my job and then I aggressively paid off those balances. And I did that in that order of priority of tackling my highest interest rate loans first and making sure I always paid the minimum balance due, and ideally paying much more than a minimum balance to expedite paying off those loans for good. And it is so liberating to be debt free. And I think if you consciously put your mind into getting rid of debt, you will be free sooner than you think. And some people can leverage debt in an intelligent way to make money. And if you're in that position, great. And if not, let's just focus on reducing our debt as much as we can. Habit number 3 is not tracking your finances and investments. And you don't have to think of it as like you have to maintain a strict budget, because that's like counting calories, which isn't that fun. But by tracking how you're either growing or decreasing your assets, you can feel more in control of where you are going financially. And I personally like using a spreadsheet and updating it weekly, but you can use plenty of other service providers and apps that offer convenient ways for you to sync your spending and saving and investing activities. By putting in a little bit more effort to get organized, this will reward you with a sense of control and the peace of mind of knowing where your money is and what it is doing. And when you set up things like automatic payments or have a calendar of your bill due dates, and you know exactly when you're going to pay your bills and how you're going to afford paying them, then you stop being late with your payments and you become more cognizant of what you're spending your money on, and if you really need to be spending money on those things, or if you don't really need to be spending money on those things. And then it is critical to always make sure you're paying your bills on time, and ideally paying any and all balances in full every month. Habit number 4 is blaming others for where you are financially. And this includes not taking control of your career or money-making options by staying in a job that doesn't pay you enough. And a lot of people say, I don't make enough money to save and invest, and then they continue staying in dead-end jobs and delaying precious time that they could have been compounding their investments if only they took more ownership of their money and time. I know it's easy to make excuses and think that the world has handed you a sack of rotten lemons, but you can still find a way to make lemonade if you focus on the positive things you've got going for you and to put your skills to work so that you can be in a position to not only make more money, but to also have a more fulfilling career and life. The key is to be willing to take full responsibility for the financial decisions you make, and then to start making smarter decisions and not repeating as many mistakes as in the past. And we all make mistakes, and there's nothing to be ashamed of in that. And a mature person who is secure in themselves will know that they can behave differently and then acts accordingly so they can become the future version of themselves. This has to do with your sense of self-efficacy and how well you are able to cope with certain situations and how you control your actions in these circumstances. And while we're not always able to control our circumstances, we can control how we react to them to still end up with positive outcomes. Habit number 5 is being afraid to learn how to invest for whatever reason. And talking about finances can sometimes be taboo, so it can be hard trying to find someone you feel like you can trust to guide you, to show you how to invest. And there are sometimes so many talking heads that can sometimes debt shame people and be discouraging that way. And all this money stuff makes you feel bad about yourself, so you think you'll get to it later, maybe sometime in the future, but you either never really do or you never really feel confident. But you shouldn't put off learning how to invest and then eventually investing, because it can make a huge difference at the point in time when you're able to retire and reach financial independence. So if we take examples of a 20-year-old and a 30-year-old who both want to retire by age 60, we can see different paths of what it will take in order to realize millionaire status. So if you're 20 years old and then able to max out a Roth IRA, let's say, and let's say that's the only thing you have, you don't even have a 401k or something else to go off of, and you're just maxing out your Roth IRA with contributions of $6,000. So that means that you're contributing every month $500, and then you're able to invest that money at the stock market's average historical rate of return of around 7%. And then in 36 years from age 20, you're able to reach $1 million by age 56. So that's pretty awesome if you're able to achieve that, and then perhaps you can even retire ahead of age 60. And compare this to someone who's 30 and doing the exact same thing, maxing out their Roth IRA, $6,000 a year, but instead of being able to reach millionaire status before 60, they're only able to reach 2/3 of $1 million by age 60, and it actually will take them another 6 years to reach millionaire status. So it's 10 more years on top of what the 20-year-old was able to do at age 56, and the 30-year-old has to wait until age 66 to be able to reach that same $1 million. So we can see that the sooner that you learn how to invest and then begin to invest, you can compound your money at spectacular returns, much more than if you just put your money in a savings account and hope for the best. Like, life doesn't mean that you have to just cross your fingers and hope that everything will work out, but you can be proactive in actively investing your money so that you have better retirement outcomes than a lot of people do. So what I'd suggest is to start learning how to invest and start contributing to a retirement tax advantaged account like a Roth IRA, or your workplace retirement accounts like a 401k, because you only have every tax year in order to contribute, but that doesn't mean that you have to invest those contributions right away. You can take your time getting to know all about investing so that you feel prepared, and when you've done your homework, then you can finally invest. But it's important to try to be aware of where we are in the stock market cycles, because it's important to still invest as early as we can so we can compound it. But if the stock market is currently at all-time record highs in terms of prices, and certain securities might be really expensive to buy, it may not be super wise just to plunk all your money into the stock market right now and then just invest and hope that everything will work out. So you should be mindful and carefully study what securities make sense to invest in at which prices before you finally invest. With that being said, feel free to check out more of my videos, because I'm studying the best investors on how to invest, and I have videos on how I pick my stocks and how to invest for beginners. So I highly recommend you check those out. And if you enjoyed this video or learned something, please like and subscribe. And I wish you well on your journey to taking control of your finances and being the best investor you can be on your journey to reaching financial independence. Till next time.